All right, so when I'm preparing my sketches for final paper transfer, I do my full flush out sketch and then I transfer it to tracing paper, step B, and then step C, I have a light pad where I put on my tracing paper directly on my light pad. And then you can see that I overlay my final watercolor paper over my light pad with my sketch underneath. And then I take my watercolor pencils and I find whatever closest watercolor pencil, and they have a pretty large array too. I'll find whatever colors are about as close as I can get to the colors that are going to be used in my final. I'll use those to actually do my final drawing. So the reason I do that is because I don't love how graphite can messy up yellows or pinks. And I don't like how sometimes you just can't pull it out. I don't know. I'm just not the biggest fan of the graphite. So I use watercolor pencils. And what I found is that it actually washes beautifully right into my painting. The transition's gorgeous and it erases out really nicely too. So it's not something that once it's on, it's on. Since it's water soluble, it's easy to wash in and it's easy to pull off. And then this is an example of it on a large scale. This is one that I'm still working on. I've been picking away for a year or so now on, but this is a massive one. Same kind of idea. You can see my tracing paper on the right side, but I've used almost all green. And this plant is almost entirely, this is a mullein plant. This one, it has yellow blossoms, so I wanted to be really careful about whatever I use to make my final transfer, so that way it didn't messy up any of that beautiful clear yellow in the final. Okay, so my favorite watercolor technique is the semi-dry brush stippling. So this one I use a lot for my to develop age surfaces. So I begin with a wash layer and then I am mindful of where my highlights are too to not touch those. And then I use a semi-dry brush and I do a ton of dots in one first color, and then I'll overlay it with another color and do that many times until I've developed that shadow or maybe in a large range of color that's in that area. So you can see that pretty well in the leaves that I did for the ghost pipe here. Okay, so here's a little example of how I do it. So you can see I did that initial wash and then using stippling, I'll go through it and start to overlay my color on it with orange. That's my first color. Okay, so you get the idea. And then once those are in and dry, I then go through with either a richer color or just an additional color that's in that area. And I'll stipple over that as well. And then and it's not entirely dry. It's got a little wetness. And as it starts to dry, it has a teeny little bleed into the fibers. And I find that that's just enough. Okay, and then this is a sped up version of that. So you can get the whole idea a lot faster. And I did this a lot in those dried Rebecchias and all of those leaves. I mean, it's several layers of dots.